one of my buddies that I've been working with for quite a while now, and had a huge pleasure to know him, Andrew Christjoy. He's not only a volunteer firefighter, he also writes movies, directs movies, and produces his own movies that are on Amazon Prime, and I think that's really cool.
Yes, it is super awesome. Andrew, I am excited to have you on here today. It's a pleasure to meet you. Kevin has told me a lot about you, and I've been doing a lot of research myself. How are you doing today, sir?
I am great and super excited to be here with you guys. The first thing I want to do, though, is apologize to your listeners, because in the promo material, I have the big old hair and the nice beard. And so, Nick, I'm sitting here jealous of your beard, and I don't look as good. So sorry to your viewers.
Yeah, hey, I appreciate it, man. I've been working on this beard. I'm actually working on growing it out right now as we speak. So I'm hoping to get something rocking like you had.
I can't grow anything
looks
for
really good.
All right, man. So come on, Andrew. Why? I have a really good question, because one of the things that me and Nick, we actually woke up one day, and I remember this conversation. We said, hey, you know what? It would be a really cool idea. He brought it up to me and said, let's start a podcast. It actually happened that way. And
Right.
I want to know is, did you wake up one day and just decide, I'm going to make a movie? Like, why did you start making movies?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It was like, hey, this seems pretty fun. There's stories that I want to tell. Let's make movies. But I think it started when I was a little kid, and I went to see the movie The Empire Strikes Back in 1980. It was the first movie I ever saw when I was 5 years old with my dad.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun to think about. Somebody created this story, and they brought it to life. And so I always wanted to do that in my life, and one day just decided, what are you doing? This would be fun. Let's just make it happen. So in a sense, definitely, I just decided and went for it.
Yeah, man, that's really awesome. Yeah, that as you saw earlier today when we were dealing with the audio and video and all that nonsense, obviously you are pretty much an expert of audio and video now with that with that kind of stuff. So please tell me, what kind of problems were you facing when you were building into these movies? Like anything.
Absolutely. So technical problems and overcoming obstacles is just par for the course, right? So for your viewers who didn't know, we spent a good amount of time getting this podcast up and running today because we had technical difficulties, right? That's just how it goes. So for example, one of my first feature films, Let There Be Zombies, had incredible technical difficulties to overcome. And you said, hey, I'm the technical expert, which I am not at all. I will sit and try to figure things out, but really it's building a team of people who have some expertise and background and bringing them in to make the project better. Because, for example, I started off shooting a simple point and shoot with my camera, but I'm not great at cinematography, right? So nowadays I hire the cinematographer, someone who focuses and practices and does all the background work to make things outstanding, so that they know the technique, they know all the things about the cameras, which I don't, because my focus is more on the producing and the story creation and working with actors. But since we're kind of talking about horror films, that my early feature film, Let There Be Zombies, incredible challenges, and the same things we had trouble with today, we struggled with on the film. But it's just like, hey, this is something we want to do. We just keep going, realizing that everybody has trouble. So
we can relate to that. Yeah.
Interviews from big Hollywood filmmakers, they have the same problem. For example, like if you've seen the movie Troy with Brad Pitt, where it's the story of the Greeks fighting the Trojans. Do you remember that movie?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they built the huge city of Troy, the big wall on the beach, and they had it for the entire movie. They waited to the very end to film the big scene between Eric Bana and Brad Pitt, and a hurricane blew in, right? Destroyed the whole set. They had to rebuild the entire whole set. So that's just the way it goes with creative productions, right? And it's things that we can all get frustrated about and punt and quit, or say, well, I guess maybe God doesn't want me to do this. That's not the case. It's just part of it, and you just have to keep going.
For sure. Now, Andrew, I'm curious, aside from all the technical issues, I'm kind of a finance guy. I like numbers, and I'm always thinking about different things in my head. So you know, aside from the struggles of everything technical wise with making a production, with you being everything that you do, how does funding for making a movie or production work? Like, how do you go about that? Is there sponsors you get? How do you tell me a little bit about how that works?
Great question. So that's the big question for all filmmakers. We have this great story. Where do we get the money? And the answer is wherever you can find it. And it's just like filmmaking. You can choose multiple different paths. It's just a matter of which works for you, right? So for my first feature film, well, the one that started to get distribution was Let There Be Zombies, and we keep talking about that one because it's a good starter film to talk about. But that one, I used some of my own funds, and then I told my story of what we're going to do and reached out to my network of friends and family, right? And so they would pitch in, whether if it was, some money, or as far as like producing, they would find a location or they'd find a vehicle. But I would say our biggest challenge on Let There Be Zombies was the zombies, right? We needed sometimes 100 zombies on set at once. And that's not cheap, right? You have to pay for that because you can, if you're making a fun family neighborhood film, you can get some actors and your buddies to fill in for a couple hours, in the Texas heat. And then after that, people are like, all right, cool, I'm going into the air conditioning. I don't have time to stand out here all day long. But we shot for 10 days in the middle of summer outside, and we needed 100 zombies in full makeup, which also means we needed a bunch of makeup artists.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
12 hours at a time, right? And no one's going to do that for free. So we had to raise some funds for that by reaching out to the network of friends and family that we have. And I'll be honest with you, at that time, I did not have the expertise to go to build like an investor's packet and a business portfolio and reach out. And I didn't have the experience either. So I wasn't going to get the money. So I had to build it through the network that I had. But also, I just ended up linking up with a, this is so random, but this is where you start to see that if you believe in something and you're a person of faith and you reach out with everything you got, that God can start to orchestrate things for you, I believe, right? So we just happened to link up with a marching band director, right? It's a semi-pro marching band, right? And they had like 100 people. And he said, hey man, if you create some promotional films for our marching band, we'll be the zombies in your film.
Wow. Cool.
Right? So that's like a miracle. I mean, honestly, and you would think, well, why would, I don't think God would do a miracle for a raunchy zombie film guy, but I think it's
well, he might.
Where I wanted to tell this story, and I put myself out there in faith, and things started to happen.
Man, that's so cool to hear. I mean, along with all that stuff too, how long does it take? Like, for example, in Let There Be Zombies, how long does it take to make like a production like that? And working with all the actors and artists, the schedules, that must have been an extremely unique experience on just getting all the coordinating together and scheduling who is who can do what. How did that go about?
It was an awesome process, and it took a long time. So we didn't do pre-production full time. Like everything that went in before shooting, we did it, part-time because we each had other jobs, right? We weren't getting paid to make this film. So it took us a year to put it together, and we would meet consistently every weekend and talk during the week. And we held casting calls. We reached out to casting directors. We planned, we scouted locations, we storyboarded, we worked on the script, and it took us a year. All right. And then production, we shot the main part of it. We shot for 10 days straight during the day and overnight. And it was awesome. We had a hotel room that we'd all stay at. And whenever we had a little bit of break, we'd jump in the Motel 6 pool and blow off some steam because we were super hot, from shooting outside in Texas all day long. And it was awesome. But then after that, it probably took us another year of post-production to edit and add in sound and the effects and the music to be created and to get it into distribution and things like that. So that's kind of the timeline. Well,
speaking of distribution, I'm curious because I have no clue, and that's why I'm excited to have you on this podcast, is I have no clue how any of this works. So distribution, you being just a regular guy, not a James Cameron or anybody like that, some mainstream Hollywood movie director, producer, how do you go about distribution for a film starting off?
For sure. And that's as tough as fundraising is, which I've kind of gotten a grasp on now for my later films, distribution is harder because you don't have a background. And all distributors are looking for is, do you have somebody that they recognize in the film, right? Do you have a Brad Pitt? If not, for the most part, they're like, oh, we don't care then, which is pure balderdash, right? If you have a good story, people want to watch it. But it does create a roadblock for you, which obviously in this film, we did not have a major Hollywood star. So we had to have a good, funny story that people could connect with. So there's different avenues just with filmmaking, as there is with distribution. But one of the things that I did was visit the American film market, and it doesn't happen to be super well known among people trying to get their start. But what I did is I went out to actually Santa Monica in California, and I sat down, set up meetings with a whole bunch of distributors and production companies, and just had meetings to tell them what I was doing, what we were going to do, and what we planned as far as like promotions and marketing, things like that. And it's really easy. It's not like you're just going up to somebody's office and knocking on the door and they're not going to listen to you, right? This is all set up for independent filmmakers, so that works really well. The other thing I did is send out the finished film to a bunch of different companies and let them watch it if they wanted to. And for the longest time, nobody wanted it, right? It's a low budget film, and it really took the right kind of person who got what we were trying to do with it. It's low budget, but if you watch it for what it is, it's really funny and it's well done, right? So there was a studio that liked it but passed on it. They passed it down to another company, and that's where I linked up with my agent. His name is Adam Witten. He's from Saifuno Ventures. They distribute lots of films with the independent lower budget. And I remember him calling me and he said, man, you know, you guys put a lot of production value into this film and it's funny, right? So we want to distribute it. And so that's
there's
how
a
we
couple
got picked
points.
up. But it took like a year after we were finished with the film, and it was very, very frustrating and disheartening. I felt like nobody liked the film. Even though we had had a premiere with 700 people, it was sold out. It was one of the greatest things in my life. You know, it took a long time. 700
people. I can't even get that many people to look at our page right now.
Yeah, that's impressive, Andrew, for sure.
Yeah.
They are, guys, because I love what you're doing. You're creating positive content, and you guys talk really well. You're funny. So it's coming, right? It's just a matter of time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I appreciate you saying that. We really want to build like an entertainment, but also a unifying thing. We don't want any, you know, we see a lot of different podcasts that have like specific political ties and things like that. And we're just not about that. We're about getting people together to enjoy all the entertainment that we bring on, like movie producers. Everyone likes movies. Everyone likes music. Why can't we have a little bit of that?
Yeah, exactly. Like unity and everything. Me and Kevin, we've been friends since 2012 now, and we just love hanging out together, having a fun time. And just like movies can bring people together, kind of get their mind off of something that's going on, that's our goal with the podcast. And I think having you on here is definitely mixing in well with
Definitely
our goal.
helps. Yeah.
Hey, I'm ready to be your guys' friend too. Can I be your friend?
Yes, you can. Oh yeah.
That sounded delayed, like it wasn't really honest.
No. I do have a real question though for you. So you wake up, you said, you know what, it'd be really cool. I'm gonna make a movie. I don't know how I'm gonna make one, and then you decided the horror genre. Like there's multiple different movies you can make. You can choose a nice Christmas Hallmark rom-com.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you went with the no, I want zombies, I want blood and guts, but family flood, you know, if you can have a family blood and guts movie like that. You know, so yeah. I thought it was awesome. What turns you on to the horror genre for this? Because I know we'll get into Prepper in a minute too, but Prepper is also kind of like in an apocalyptic state as well, just different. So what is there like something with you that you like apocalyptic things?
For sure. There's multiple answers in there, but I'll start off by saying that it's just fun, right? What I like about the horror or apocalyptic genre is things become black and white, meaning you lose that gray area where you're trying to decide how you're going to get the kids to soccer practice and if your air conditioner works or not, right? You have to set that aside. Because it comes down to, are you going to live or die, right? You have choices. When you make them, you either live or die. And that really clarifies why people do things and how they relate to each other. You see people at their absolute worst, and that reveals who they truly are. So I like that because of the genre.
I
Number
really do
two
like that.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I really like that.
Early filmmakers, when you're trying to get your foot into the door, and this is very, very common, the way to do it is to lock onto a genre that people will watch no matter how bad the film is, right? And I knew my film was going to be super low budget starter film, so I thought, okay, what's better than a zombie film? And at the time, it was before or right during the zombie craze reigniting. And in fact, as I was in pre-production, I was telling my friends about it, and they say, "Hey, have you seen this show called The Walking Dead?" And I was like, "No, I hadn't heard about it."
What's that?
It was just coming out, right? So this was perfect timing. So I knew that even if the zombie film failed, it was horrible, people would still like it because they love that low-budget zombie horror film genre. So there's two reasons for it. But the third reason, which really stands out a lot more than Prepper, is that, I feel a calling through my faith to help people think through what they might need to be prepared, because the situation in our country and globally is very volatile. And sure, perhaps there aren't zombies that are going to come tear us to pieces, but I feel like one way for us to be prepared is to start thinking about it mentally, and films are a way to help us do that, so that if we're able to take care of ourselves, we can share in ministry by taking care of the people around us who are really, really going to need it. So those are three reasons for why I picked a horror film starting out.
That's really cool. Yeah, no, that's really awesome. So other than your horror film that you made, because you put so much time and effort into it and everything, what would you say your favorite horror film in general is? Because I know mine, but
So I'm not a big horror film fan, honestly.
Wow.
Because I'm not into gore just because, right? And honestly, sometimes it scares me, and I want to be able to sleep at night. But my favorite blend of horror action is Aliens with Sigourney Weaver. I just absolutely love it, because these aliens are coming after them. They're in space, they're trying to survive, and you have these Marines that are buddy-buddy and all the dynamics that go into that. I just love that story. It's super fun to watch.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
That's fair enough. I know for me, I think my favorite movie ever in the horror, because I'm also not that much of a horror film, just because usually nowadays it's just there's not an intricate storyline to it. There's a lot of blood and guts and the same typical white girl falling down right at the last minute type stuff going on. Like, oh, there's a tree branch and oh, he got me type thing. But I think my favorite that I've watched, which kind of fits in the category I just said that I don't like, is the first remake of the Texas Chainsaw series. So they had the entire series in the 70s and 80s, and I think the very first one they made it was either like 2002 or 2003 or something like that. I think that one's my favorite because it was the very first modern horror movie, like a remake. I think that, and it scared the crap out of you. Like it was one of those movies.
With Jessica Biel.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I saw that one in the theater.
Yeah, I did too, and I slept with my mother the next night. So
I'd have to say mine is probably Halloween Town. So I'm just messing.
Oh my God, no.
No, I'm just messing around. Actually, it is Halloween, the original John Carpenter version, and the reason is because it's not, I'm not into the blood and guts thing either. But it's something that, aside from him being immortal and no matter how many times he's stabbed and shot, somebody could really, he's a serial killer, and that is a real thing. And it kind of opens up your mind to be a little bit more cautious about locking the door at night or, who you make mad, stuff like that.
I mean, they're fun to watch here and there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't make Andrew mad.
Yeah, don't make Andrew mad.
Nope.
Yeah.
Sure.
I definitely so I was watching Let There Be Zombies. It was on Wednesday night. I was sending you pictures of that stuff, and there was a few questions I want to ask specifically about the movie, because you and specifically the very first scene in the school when you had all the kids around, and I forget which character it was, but it was the too cool for school kid you had in the very beginning. How many how many takes did you have to do? Because everyone was taking everything he said so seriously, and he was talking about his junk and stuff, and telling the sweet little teacher off and everything. Specifically, like, how many takes did y'all have to do with that? Because I think I wouldn't be able to pay attention with that going on.
That was a really fun day, and we shot that in the old Louisville High School. That was
my next question.
Texas, in the Dallas area. Like the week before they tore that high school down, right? One of the people on the crew, he helped work on the script. His name was Matt Bowden, but he got that location lined up for us, right? And that actor, he was awesome, such a fun guy. His name is Robert Slaughter, but he was really buff and muscular.
Wow.
It was
Slaughter.
Fun because we had a whole group of at the time I was teaching high school, right? So these were, I think, another guy who worked on the script as well. His name is Michael Vergeen. I think these were mostly his students and Matt Bowden's students, and then a few other people that we had thrown in there that were, acting in the classroom scene. But it was funny. We would just laugh. We'd be super serious, and then we'd laugh, and we'd be throwing spitballs at each other. But that was actually the very first thing we shot for the film, which is you don't normally shoot the very first scene very first up front, but it just so happened that the high school was going to be torn down that following week, so we had to get that in there. But it was a blast.
So you don't film the first scene first, or do you kind of just do the meat and potatoes of it all, and then try to put something that's applicable to the front end of it?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So usually you'll shoot maybe the hardest scenes first with the most money and time that goes into it. So make sure you get that done, so that later down the line, when you get to easier scenes, you can just make sure you get them knocked out. And people think maybe that you shoot a movie in order, but that's just not the case at all, for tons of various factors based on money, location availability, actor availability. Yeah,
people's schedules. No, that was exactly what I was going to ask. Well, you just answered a future question I was going to ask about. Where did y'all just get a school that y'all just started shooting at? But I still have the same question. Whose house was it in? The older lady's house that they were in before she turned to a zombie, as well as the RV. And you can go ahead and ask about the underground bunker shop in Prepper, which is a different thing. Where are you finding these locations? How do you get permission to just use a warehouse to shoot a movie at?
Yeah, so once again, like I said in the beginning, I work with really good people who work super hard. Whether it's a producer or a location scout, people just get on it, right? And so on one hand of it, you can work with the Texas Film Commission, and they will help you line up a location, right? But for a number of locations for Let There Be Zombies, as I was just getting started out, it was just through that network of talking with people. And so in Let There Be Zombies, there's a big barn scene, right? For most of the movie, they're at a barn. That happened to be the land up north of Dallas in Sanger, Denton area, that one of my coaches had just volunteered for me because she heard I was doing a zombie film. She's like, hey, we have the perfect location for that. So that was a godsend. Let's see, Mary's house, which is the crazy old lady, one of the first places they go to in that film. Again, this is insane, right? It has to be by design, by God's design. But like, it was my buddy who purchased land and a house that he was going to tear down again.
Oh my goodness, y'all are just fine.
Tear that place up. We got to do whatever we wanted in there.
Trendsetter.
Like a month before they tore it down. So the RV was my attorney's RV, and so he brought that over for us. And okay, so moving fast forward to answer your question, to one of my later films, Prepper, we shot at Rising S Bunkers, which is the largest underground bunker facility that builds those huge, massive underground bunkers. They are south of Fort Worth, south of Dallas. Oh. And the producer that I worked with on that one, his name is Abel Nobel. He's a guy that just believes and does whatever and makes things happen. It's what a producer does. He approached them, said, here's what we're doing. We'd love to feature you in our film. We'll advertise. You can have spots at our premiere, all these things like that. And they worked with us. They were fantastic. They stopped production while we were filming in there to let us spend the day shooting those scenes.
Wow. So that's what I was going to ask. Also, is how'd you get underground bunkers in there? But I didn't even realize it was a real bunker shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get one?
You know what? I can't disclose that right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't want anyone finding my compound that I have hidden and stored, so I'm going to be safe during the apocalypse. You know. But yeah, their name is Rising S Bunkers.
Rising S
Bunkers. It's a real
Bunkers.
place. They're the biggest underground bunker manufacturer in the country, and they do things from like one room to massive underground shelters where you can park multiple vehicles. It's just awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, so with all the work that you put into Let There Be Zombies, what do you think your favorite scene in this movie is, and why?
I was watching that. I watched a bit of the movie just to refresh my mind about things, and there's so many corny, fun little parts to it that I really enjoy. One of the questions that you had kind of led up with in the email that we had going back and forth was, like the ending scene and why that was important. So it's probably, like the moral of the story, and it becomes important to me because we're telling this whole narrative to get to the end and the moral of the story. So I would say that those final climax scenes and the last scene are my favorite because we made it. We've made this film, and it tells the moral of the story. So it was also really cool because my brother, who was like my best friend, he had been out doing his real life job or whatever, and the last day of production, funny enough, we ended up shooting the last scene, which isn't normal either for production. But he shows up that day as one of the soldiers at Camp Hope in the ending scene there where they're all
no way.
And my brother showed up, and he was in the Army. He was in the 82nd Airborne, so I featured him
awesome.
in there. You can see him. He's wearing camo, all green with a short haircut. He comes in. He's the one that comes in and pats a little boy on the head. So my favorite moment is waking up at the hotel room where the whole production and cast was staying, and walking out, and I was tired for the last day, and looking up on the balcony, and there's my brother there, showed up by surprise, and I was like, hey man, you're in the film, let's go. So that was one of the great moments of the movie for me.
Yeah, that sounds like a really special moment to have your brother there.
It was awesome because I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah, man, I think my favorite part of the film, and it was just one of those comedic element parts of it that you put in there, is there was at one point, I think it was the older lady when she was dying or becoming a zombie, whichever part, and the teacher, she says, don't go to the light or something like that, stay with us, and then Jeff's ass randomly goes, no, go to the light.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
So guys, you're not going to believe this, but that is a true story.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, what
right?
part of that?
When I was a paramedic and I was in the back of an ambulance, that actually happened to me. And that's why that's where I got this craziness, and I put it into the film. We really had a lady who was crazy, right? Which is not uncommon, but this lady was, she had to have been possessed. It's something I'd never seen before.
Whoa.
But she acted exactly what I wrote into the film, to where, she kind of is like, I see angels, they're beautiful, they're calling to me, and then she just collapsed, and I'm like, I'm looking over her vitals, and I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I'd been a paramedic for a number of years. It was just weird and strange. Like, so I get in right to her face, and it's like, she's like, ah. And I'm like,
oh my God.
That's no joke. That is a true story, man. So I thought it'd be perfect for going into the film.
Well, yeah. And
Jeez.
I'm speechless at this moment in time. So,
Andrew, just to real quick in here, you've literally done everything. I thought, I've done a little research on you. I didn't even know you were an EMT previously, so which I guess makes sense with other work you do. But man, you are one diverse person. It's so cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But really what it comes from is I'm just super grateful, and I look around at everything that we have, and I'm excited, and I want to do all kinds of different things because I feel like God gave us an incredible blessing, and I just want to go out and live life, right? So I try to share that with other people as one of my ways of brightening people's lives. So I hope that inspires people to do the same.
You know, it's funny you say that because I feel the same way. I'm very grateful. I'm young, but I've already had a couple of close calls in life. You know, where I may not have been here right now, and I feel the same way. One of my coworkers the other day just told me, Nick, you're always busy. You're always going there and doing that. And do you ever just stop? And I'm just like, well, no, because I want to do as much as I can in life. Of course, I'm careful not to burn out, but I don't want to just sit around and just do the bare minimum and everything. God gave us a whole world, with His dominion over it, and I want to take advantage of that opportunity.
I feel that for sure. And there was a time when I was more focused on achieving things when I was young, right? And over the years, I had to learn that people are way more important than whatever I wanted to achieve. But now that I feel like God has helped me to understand that, I have a good balance to where I go out and achieve things, but it's with people and placing them first, and it just makes it the experience for me and for everybody around me just so much more filled with joy and fun and excitement, right? So I hope I get to live that out for a lot longer.
That's a good revelation right there, sir. I really appreciated that point perspective.
That's awesome.
I used to be a little bit more about achieving things too, and actually just these past couple months I felt on my heart that God's pointed me that same direction rather than achieving things, going out, and that people are more important in those experiences. So that's really awesome. Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to add to that because it's really funny. You learned through filmmaking that kind of an ideology, and we didn't start learning it until we started doing this podcasting thing. Is it just go and be happy type thing? It doesn't matter what other people think, doesn't matter what you're doing, you'll achieve the things you're going to, and that's just going to be the end of it. But being happy, making other people happy, building community, and again the unity thing through entertainment and things like that, that's amazing that we learn the same thing, only through a different medium.
Yeah, and I think that anyone who is creative, whether you're doing a podcast or film or you're writing or creating a television program,
sure,
it takes something special to be able to reach into someone's life and understand what makes people tick, and to produce something that showcases that. And when you're able to do that at a top level, you can only do that by connection with people. If it's not a connection with people, then what are we doing, right? And it's obvious that that's what you guys want to do because of the way you present your material. It's not one-sided. It's not trying to put up a wall and say, look at these other people. They're dumb. They don't know what they're talking about. You guys, and what I appreciate about your show is that you listen and you build a community. And I think we all need more of that. The creative person is someone who can really capitalize on that. And so I hope we all get to keep doing that in a way that just increases the voice we're able to extend.
Man, I really appreciate that. Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Read it like a book.
Plus, you're both really, really handsome. You know what I mean?
No.
So, I appreciate that. I wish the ladies would say that more often.
Yeah, maybe me, but all right. So you had the ending scene of Let There Be Zombies. You made an incredible storyline of the movie. What do you want your viewers to take as an overall message of that movie?
Yeah. So once again, there's multiple little things in there, but when it comes to the end, and our main character Drew, who, spoiler alert, she survives.
No.
Only at great cost, though.
Because you chose it.
The final message is, or at least one of them, is that it doesn't matter if there's a zombie apocalypse where the world has gone crazy, or if it's normal life and you're in the suburbs and you're trying to get the kids to soccer practice. Life is what you make it, right?
Absolutely.
You have choices.
Absolutely.
You have choices that affect you and other people. And it is easier, no matter if there are zombies or if you're trying to make a budget stretch out to the end of the month. It is easier to put yourself first and to lie, cheat, and steal and shove other people to the side or even below you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is harder. It is harder to put other people first and to think with integrity and to do that which is good and to follow what God calls us to do. That's hard, right?
Yeah.
But the moral of that story is there is hope in that. There is resiliency in walking that fine line. Doesn't matter if it's the boring comfort of the suburbs or zombies are coming to get you. When you reach out in faith and you take care of other people around you, that community is going to support you in the end. And that integrity is going to carry you through with your faith in mind, no matter what the situation, right? And that's what we've got to do.
I'm
so that's
mind
kind
blown.
of the moral of the story.
Yeah, I'm left speechless after that one. That was
Yeah, that's I just have to say too, with you saying that, that's super on point. That speaks to my spirit. But there's such a blessing and reward for putting yourself, not being selfish and doing the right thing for others and helping other people. At the end of that, time and time again, God's proven to me exactly what you're saying. There's a reward to that inner feeling of peace and content about doing so.
That and just listening to other people. If you don't agree with them, who cares? Like you don't no one has to be right.
Exactly.
So you can just listen to other people. And I think that's also part of Let There Be Zombies. Putting other people first for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I like about the film. There's all these weird different characters, but it's not about saying you over there, you are an idiot and you are opposite, you are other of me. The film is about celebrating all of us who are weird and quirky and different, and we have our different beliefs. But at the end of the day, it's two people who have survived this horrendous ordeal, which is the metaphor for life, right? Two characters are on the barn, on the roof, surrounded by the pitfalls of life, which are the zombies. And they're not going to make it alone. They're not going to make it by pointing fingers at each other saying, you're wrong. The only way they make it is by understanding we're all different, and yet we're all the same because we're in it together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, you told us a lot about the Let There Be Zombies situation. Why don't you tell us a little bit what it was like producing Prepper? Like, I know that was a completely different ordeal.
Yeah, so that was a really good and different experience because we built on the success that we had achieved with Let There Be Zombies, which, by Hollywood terms, it was not a lot of success, but we did get distribution and we did win a couple of awards, right? We were starting to see some money come in, so we were able to reach out to beyond our network of personal people that we knew as far as investors. And we brought in a significant amount of money for independent filmmaking, and we extended our reach. So instead of it being me and a group of Dallas-based filmmakers, which we still used a lot of, right? We reached out to some seasoned veterans in the Hollywood film industry, and we brought the cinematographer and the bulk of the film crew in from LA to Dallas. And that right there upgraded our production. But I and my wife really helped me, reminded me what the key elements.
Sorry about that, guys. Another technical difficulty happened, but we are back here and everything. Andrew Christjoy's back, and we're all sounding good. So we're about to go into Prepper. Tell us what the production side was on Prepper, because I know it had to have been a little bit different than making a horror movie. So where did you get started with this one?
Yeah, so if you've seen the difference between Let There Be Zombies, my early film, and Prepper, my latest film, you can tell that there is a significant increase in production value. Like, we were able to spend a lot more money because we were able to raise more based on the success of Let There Be Zombies. And Let There Be Zombies was just a little independent film that won a couple awards, but it got picked up for distribution and had some money coming in. So with that legitimacy, we could reach out to some investors on a higher level and prove that we had done some things. So that was what was great about Prepper. But the thing is, going from that zombie film where everybody's going to watch it no matter how terrible the acting is, right?
Right.
We had to, and Prepper is kind of a drama, right? There's some fun things in it and some comedy, but dramas you have to kind of get right, because if you don't, people are very unforgiving. So
Yeah.
we allocated our money to some key areas. One of them was that we brought in the cinematographer and the production crew mainly from LA because they've got the experience. They've proved themselves over multiple feature films. We wanted to make sure we got that right. So one of the other things that you're probably not ever going to notice, but is super paramount, is audio post-production, right? And if you really listen to Prepper, you can hear how amazing it is, right? So these days you can shoot shaky footage, camera stuff going on, and it could be bad lighting and all that. People don't care because they're used to seeing that, right?
Yeah.
But if you get the sound wrong, people know that it's amateur and not good. So we spent like $20,000 alone on that audio post-production, okay? So I worked with, for people who know film, Sundance Film, award-winning audio post-production technician in Dallas there at his studio, and just the sound for Prepper is amazing, right? The film, the score is fantastic because I worked with Brian Douglas again, and he was really great, but the audio post-production was able to be enhanced. And so the combination of spending a bunch of money on cinematography and audio post-production just really makes the film look and sound phenomenal. So I would say that's the two greatest advantages that we have. But go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. I was just curious, with you having a bigger budget, if it's okay for me asking, how much was the budget for Prepper?
Right. So Prepper is $100,000.
Okay.
Right? Which is not. It's not a lot of money, and I still was able to utilize a number of production techniques as far as, my producers going in and doing trade for locations, right? We didn't necessarily rent out every single location, which can get expensive. We paid the main actors, but for example, like I had students that I had worked with as a high school teacher in the student scenes, right? Out of the kindness of their hearts, they would have volunteered to do it, but again, they wouldn't have volunteered for 2 12-hour days to sit in a room, right? They already had to put up with me as a teacher before that, so we had to pay those people, right? And it costs money. So I'm just thankful that we were able to raise those funds up another level to be able to bring in some of the things to take it to that next step.
Okay, yeah, that's sweet. And for $100,000, that film, I thought you were going to say something. Honestly, I thought you were going to say something northwards of probably 600,000. So very impressive.
Well, and I think that we could easily make a case for that's the actual budget. But as far as like things that we spent money on, it comes down to like $100,000, and that we got away with a lot. It's just like that's independent filmmaking at its best, right? It's being able to extend the budget that you have well beyond by making people believe in what you're doing so that they're willing to give you more, right? Instead of being limited by $100,000.
Yeah, absolutely. With that movie, because the production value just overall was so much better than the first one. When you're talking about the cameras, when you're talking about not necessarily, I wouldn't say graphics and Prepper, but in general, just production quality was a lot better. It looked like something that was on AMC, just independent filmmaking though. What kind of awards did you win with that? All of you win, sorry, not you, but the entire movie itself. What kind of awards and how did y'all get distribution with that one?
Yeah, that's a good question. And there was a larger number of awards, and I'm not going to remember all of them, but if I can hit the top ones that I can think of, it's like the Hollywood Independent Film Festival. It wasn't. We knew it wasn't the film that's going to go to Sundance or the Oscars, right? And win that. That's shooting too high with the type of film that we had. But one of the things that I had learned is to find that right niche as far as where that film fits into, and put it into those markets, right? And send it to those festivals. So that's why it did really well, because I was learning those techniques. So the Hollywood one was really big, and that's the first one I remember. There was one in Fort Worth that we won, and I think there's 5 or 6, so I don't remember off the top of my head. But again, because of the success of that low budget, corny little fun zombie film, I had linked up with an agent, and he's my film agent. So I reached out to him directly, and he's the one who did the hard work this time on finding distribution for Prepper. So as far as that aspect, I had already crossed that barrier with my first crazy zombie film. So the door was open for me to get distribution a lot easier. And that's how we did it.
that definitely makes a lot of sense then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And sorry, I had to quit because I can't remember everything I wrote everything down that I wanted to ask you. But so, are you done making films? Or do you have more stuff coming out? What can we expect if you are making more?
Heck yes. I am not done making films. I've got so much more going on.
You better not be.
I will tell you, yeah, man. I've got 2 of them that I can tell you about right now, right? I don't want to give away the secrets, right? But just to tell you about one,
Do it.
honestly, this one's been going on for a long time, but it's going to take significant budget. So that's something that we're still building. But one of them is called Turf, and it's about the battle between a guy who's super lazy, and his parents kind of start making him mow lawns because he just lives in their house, and even though he's a little bit older, right?
Yeah.
It's also about a illegal Mexican immigrant who sneaks across the border, and he starts mowing lawns and builds a business. And these 2 guys start to fight. They get into competition, right?
Uh-huh.
They don't like each other. And so it's the turf of the lawn that they're mowing, but it's also metaphorical. This is our turf, right?
Yeah.
So
Like a Gran Torino type turf, if that's where we're going.
And as you can imagine, it's kind of perfect timing because we have that really volatile situation going on in our country today. And with all of my films, it really enjoys and highlights stereotypes, but in a way that turns around and showcases that, again, we're in this together. And when we're at odds with each other, we're actually the ones that lose out. And so the film's going to talk about that. It's a comedy that really grows up and turns into a drama. And so that's one. And the other one is awesome. I'm working with Abel Nobel. He's a producer out on the East Coast. He worked with us on Prepper, and he is lining up a project called Storm and Garrison, which is about the War of 1812, which most people don't really know anything about, right? It's the Battle of Baltimore, where you've got the British coming back to storm the United States, the young country, and see if the United States can hang on. And for a time there, we didn't know. And in fact, during that time period, the White House was burned by the British.
That's right. I remember
that. It just
that.
happens to be a period in our U.S. history that doesn't get covered very much because we have so much going into the history books now that no one's told that story. And so Abel, the producer that I work with, is building it with historians from the area, directly with historians there in Boston as well. And so we're lining that up right now to be a mini series which tells the story of certain characters going through that entire event. But that's going to be a really big one. So there's 2 main ones that I'm working on right now.
That's really cool.
I'm super excited to see the one about 1812. I've never personally seen anything about that. I'm fascinated with war history and movies about that. Man, I'm pumped up for that. I'll have to keep updated on that.
Oh, absolutely.
What we're gonna need to do is you guys both need to be in the film.
Hey,
I'm freaking down. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Yes. Hey, I want to say something about that though. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So like, anytime I'm doing a film, there's always friends and family that are like, "Hey, put me in your film," which I definitely want to do because it's fun, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's the expectation of, you could be a background actor right here and wear a uniform and it's cool. You can see yourself on screen. That's awesome. But then there's also the expectation of, hey, I've never acted before in my life, but I want to be a Hollywood star, so put me in your film, right?
Right.
And I encourage that, so don't get me wrong. But I also want to clarify and say, if you really want to be in films, then do your homework. Build up your acting resume.
Yeah.
Start acting. Act in anything you can find, like from the smallest no-budget actor film all the way up to whatever you can get into. But don't just say you want to go be an actor and you walk up and try to do it, because it's a craft that people have to work at for years. And I can't do it. I wish I could. And Kevin, you mentioned it in the emails before this. Like, I put myself into Prepper, but I basically just played myself when I'm super annoyed, right? And I just act like, I just act like myself when I'm really like angry and annoyed. I'm just like, what?
Oh, what?
I can do that, but other than that, I can't really act at all.
Is that how you talk to your dogs?
My encouragement is to people who are actors that want to get into the scene is, if you really want to do it, then go for it. Build your resume, go to acting classes, get into anything that you can do. And when you come up to me or other independent filmmakers, don't just say, hey, put me in your film. It'll be great. I'll know what I'm doing. really work at your craft, and that'll help you.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned how actors should be, getting into the film industry and how they should go about it. What do you say for future directors and producers and writers? Like, what advice do you have to filmmakers, which is a completely other different craft?
Yep. My advice is just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Nike.
Love it.
There are so many different outlets, but just do it. And it's hard, and I have these conversations in my own head, right? I compare myself to these Hollywood films, and I'm like, well, if I can't do Michael Bay with explosions all over the place, then I'm just not a director, and I'm not going to do it, right? Because I'm never going to get there, and that's just not true, right?
Not true.
You can make films these days that are so small, and with an iPhone, and they go viral, and people love them, and you can change the world with just that. So my point is, just do it. There are so many different outlets. If you want to go the Hollywood studio route, just do it. Go out to Hollywood, get your foot in the door, network, take classes, and go do it. Cool. If that's not working for you, and you think, you know what, I want to be an independent producer, then just do it. Start making your films. One of the easiest things to do is use what you have right now. We all have phones that have come such a long way, and they are beautiful cinematographically in a cinematographic way, right?
Right. Yeah.
And build from there. And that's how I got my start. I made these goofy little YouTube videos. I actually started off on my dad's old actual film camera, making G.I. Joe the movie, between film. When I was a kid, I don't know if you guys did this, but we had to shoot on actual tape, right?
Yeah.
I'd have 2 VCRs, and then you have to push record on this one and play on this one, and that's how you edited between 2 different VCRs, right? So don't ever let the excuse of we don't have the equipment stop you. Just do it and go whatever route works for you, and don't stop.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely true. And we're not, this podcast has been really awesome, very informative. We tend to say that a lot at the very end of our podcast, like, oh, this has been awesome, this has been informative, whatever. But seriously, this has been, I would say, I don't even know the word for it, but what I will say is I have never actually learned how to produce movies, how you even go about this kind of stuff. And I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing your craft. I mean, we even know to this day right now, audio and video is not a game. And so I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else you want to say, Nate?
Yeah, like Kevin said, it has been awesome learning from you and listening to you. I can honestly say during this whole podcast, there's not been a single microsecond that I have been disengaged from this. I mean, the whole thing, every single word you have spoken has been extremely interesting and really great. So our viewers know, where can people go to follow your next projects that you were just discussing? How will we find out about that? Any ideas on that?
Yes, sir. They can go to andrewchristjoy.com and keep up with everything that we got going on, and that would be greatly appreciated, because part of the fun is building a following, as you guys know, of support and a community that you can cater to because you want to, but also come along for the ride. But I do want to say that I really appreciate being on this show with you gentlemen as well. I have really enjoyed listening to several of your podcasts, and I think it's inspirational the way you hold your conversations, and I'm thankful to be a part of that. So if I can help out in any way, please consider me, because I'd be glad to do it.
Awesome, man. Yeah, but we really appreciate you coming on, and we appreciate those words too. And if you're watching this right now and you haven't yet, go ahead and follow us. Well, I guess not. Yeah, you can follow on Facebook. So go ahead and like and follow us on Facebook. We're also on iHeart Radio. We're still currently trying to get those guys to put us, when you actually type in the name, for us to come up. But you actually have to go through our Facebook link through the iHeart Radio right now and tune in to listen to this on your way to work or something. And make sure to look up Let There Be Zombies, to watch that movie, to watch Prepper. Understand it's a low budget independent film, but there's lots of good material in it. And to follow on where Andrew Christjoy's next projects are going to be. I'm excited for the 1812 thing. I'm ready. So
same here.
All right. Any last thoughts you haven't?
I think we're in a really volatile time in this country right now. And this podcast is very important because it's about bringing people together, not being separated. I hope that's the same thing that I'm doing with my productions. So, my friends out there, thank you for listening to these gentlemen. I think they're doing the right thing, and we need to support them as much as possible. So, thank you, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
Hey, man, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate it.
All right, bud. We're going to sign off. We'll see you later, okay, man?
You got it. Thank you.
See you, bud.